Donald Trump is triggered again by former FBI agents, former special counsel, and he's going on the warpath. And they're fighting back. Jack Smith attacked in social media posts as he's trying to lobby and campaign for Jack Smith, the former special counsel, to be prosecuted. Why? Because as part of his investigation, he investigated Republican Congress people and senators for being involved with Donald Trump's plot to overthrow the government. The Democrats weren't involved with that. Of course, there were hundreds and hundreds of Republicans who were looked at to see if they participated in it. That's what a good investigation is all about. You follow the facts wherever they lead. And Donald Trump has to be triggered. Jack Smith's ugly inside and out. And as Lanny Brewer, his lawyer, said, at any time, anywhere, we will give testimony in public about Jack Smith's investigation and the evidence against Donald Trump. Name the place, name the time. And then we have, and I'll put it all together here on this Friday morning hot take on Legal AF, James Comey has filed his brief to dismiss the indictment because it's sloppy, because it is based on an ambiguous question and answer from Senator Cruz that nobody can make heads or tails out of. And you can't have perjury or lying to Congress, which is the fundamental charge under 1001. You can't have a 1001 charge unless you can have a clear question and an answer that is clearly false and knowingly made so. Can't do it with the Q&A under Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz can't even form a question. They said it was so fundamentally ambiguous, Ted Cruz's inability to speak the English language, that the resulting question and the answer that came out of James Comey couldn't possibly form the basis of a perjury charge. Dismiss the indictment. That's the first claim. Remember, James Comey already has vindictive prosecution coming. He already has other arguments. He's filed a brief already about getting rid of Lindsay Halligan as improperly appointed. This is one in a series of motions filed by James Comey. And I love putting Jack Smith and his response and James Comey and his filed response all together in one update for you here. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button as I dive in to the James Comey motion. Now, you can bring these motions at different times. First motion we got a week or so ago, claiming that Lindsay Halligan, under a statute we call 546, was improperly appointed under the Vacancy Reform Act because she was the second interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. There was already one. And once there's been one interim U.S. attorney, and he was fired by Donald Trump because he wouldn't prosecute Letitia James or James Comey, then the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia get to pick the successor, not Donald Trump, not with a social media post. Pick Lindsay Halligan, Pam Bondi. She likes you. She thinks you're pretty. Only the second part is not true. So that motion's pending. It's up with Judge Curry in South Carolina, who's handling it because of the conflict of interest potentially among the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia. And it's consolidated with Letitia James's almost identical motion. And we know that on Monday, there's a big thing that's got to get delivered to Judge Curry in the form of everything that Lindsay Halligan did or said in front of the grand jury. What did she say to get those indictments? Now we have the motion to dismiss the indictment. There'll be a separate motion to dismiss for prosecutorial abuse, which we've already laid out. This one is fundamental. In order to have a perjury charge, you got to have a clear question and an answer that is not true. Now, let me play you the clip that is the basis, the entire basis of the indictment. An exchange between Ted Cruz, a senator, he of mangled vocabulary and syntax, and Comey responding during COVID over a video link. You could barely hear anything in response. It has to do not with testimony live. It had to do with a convoluted question that Cruz was trying to ask, where he mishmashed and talked about the Clinton administration when he meant Hillary Clinton. And then he talked about testimony from 4 years earlier in 2017 that Comey had given to Senator Grassley in another hearing about Crossfire Hurricane, an investigation about Russia collusion. And you got Cruz asking Comey if his 5 year or 4 year ago testimony to Grassley, what does he stand by that testimony? about whether there was a leak or not. Confused? That's the reason you cannot possibly have an indictment based on this exchange. Let's play the exchange.
All right, let's shift to another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
That's the exchange. That's the entirety of the exchange. And here's what they say in their brief, which I'm going to put up in Legal AF Substack. On May 3rd, 2017, Comey voluntarily testified at the Senate Judiciary Committee's annual FBI oversight hearing. Here was the Q&A then. Senator Grassley, Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? Comey, never. Senator Grassley, question 2, relatively related. Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? Mr. Comey, no. What are they talking about? Comey had used a special FBI employee and a friend of his named Daniel Richman, a professor now at Columbia University, who used to be an assistant U.S. attorney and worked under Comey, to leak officially some memos, 4 or 5 of them, to the New York Times after Comey got fired. Not about the Trump investigation and not about the Clinton investigation. And never authorized Richman to leak anything to the Wall Street Journal, nor McCabe to the Wall Street Journal. McCabe has already said, Andy McCabe, who was the number 2 in the FBI, he's already said, I'm the one who leaked to the Washington Post. Okay. So that seems to let Comey off the hook. Except 3 years later, September 30th, 2020, Comey voluntarily appears in a Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and you just saw the Q&A where Cruz lists the Grassley exchange I just read to you, and then says, who's telling the truth? What kind of question is that? On May 3rd, 2017, Chairman Grassley, Cruz says, asked you point blank, have you ever been an anonymous source? You said never. And then he then asked you if you ever authorized someone else about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration. Typo, wrong word, Cruz. Mangled question. You responded no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal. Who's telling the truth? He says, I stand by my earlier testimony. Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same as today. I didn't authorize and I didn't leak. Now, the indictment is weird anyway, because the indictment against James Comey, I mean, why are we shocked? She'd been a federal prosecutor for all of 2 days, never trained, went in apparently by herself and screwed up the indictment because the indictment says that, or they learned later on that the people in the indictment, this is the charge from the indictment. On or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, he was in his home, Comey did willfully and knowingly make a false and fictitious or fraudulent statement in that he said during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. The statement was false because Comey then and there knew he had in fact authorized person 3 to to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person one. Confused? Well, they later learned that person one is Hillary Clinton and that person three was Daniel Richman, not even Andy McCabe. Daniel Richman didn't leak to the Wall Street Journal about Clinton. Daniel Richman leaked to the New York Times about Donald Trump firing James Comey. Got another problem there. So the argument in their brief is this is so fundamentally ambiguous, and then citing cases, that there couldn't possibly be a perjury charge out of it. And that it's completely out of context, and therefore the indictment must be dismissed with prejudice. Signed by James Comey's counsel, including lawyers at Cooley, Patrick Fitzgerald on his own. They brought in a firm from Alexandria, Virginia, a local firm, and some other people that I know, like Michael Dreeben. That's who's on the brief. This is now all in front of the judge for the Comey case, which is Judge Nachmanoff, a Biden appointee. If Donald Trump was triggered by Jack Smith just existing, you can imagine what he's going to do now that he got this motion to dismiss the indictment. This is a pretty strong case against the indictment. The indictment's weak. Any self-respecting prosecutor would have already tried to bring an amended indictment and fix her problems. She hasn't done it because she doesn't know how to do it, frankly, Lindsay Halligan. Plus, she's got her own problems. She's in the middle of Scandalgate and Signalgate about her destroying the accusation. She's destroyed federal documents by using a disappearing messaging app while prosecuting. I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. But I'll continue to follow it. I'm glad you're here on Legal AF. Hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack and you could read the brief for yourself and think about becoming a paid member at less than $7 a month. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.